Hello, everyone who just joined us. We're just waiting for a bunch more people and we'll start shortly. I love to see familiar names on the screen. That's going to be awesome topic and chat and getting ready for some of your questions ahead.
Yeah, we can put the questions into the chat here and we will have time for them at the end. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Maria, Evgeny, Vipin, and Slava.
We're going to give it another minute, Irina.
I think, yeah, like 3 minutes. I hope we'll be
Awesome.
able and we will start. We see people are joining.
Getting busier.
Yeah, we have
Hello, hello.
visitors like from Australia, Ukraine, so just a different time zones, California.
Totally. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being on time. We're going to start shortly. We're just letting other people to join. So. Karina, since we're recording the call, I think it's good to get it started, and then whoever joined us still will catch lots of good information because we have a really busy plan for today. Shall we?
Let's start.
Let's start.
Yeah. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Building a High Impact Personal Brand for B2B Founders. I'm Marina Andrushenko, CEO and co-founder of Handy.ai, and our AI agents optimize all communication processes. And which is more important, I'm chief and editor at You Are Tech Today, a media showcasing Ukrainian innovations worldwide. And today, I'm joined by Ola Stasiuk, a best-selling author, Harvard Business School alumna, and most importantly, founder and CEO of Bonsai, leading one of the most disruptive AI startups in learning tech. Welcome, Ola.
Thanks, Serena. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Super excited for this. I know that we have people joining from all around the world, and all of you have different backgrounds. So we have a packed schedule today. At the same time, please make sure you post your questions in the chat because we want to make sure your needs are answered. It is the webinar mainly for B2B founders. At the same time, we'll talk a lot about personal branding that touches not only those roles, and we're sure you're going to find a lot of value today. So let's go.
Yeah, so over the next 30 minutes, we'll dive into why does personal branding matter in B2B? Does it really sell and attract investors? How to pick your platform, decide on posting frequency, and use AI without losing authenticity. And what pitfalls should be avoided and how we can really measure our ROI. So let's talk about why. Why personal branding? And maybe it is the main big question. So, is it so essential for B2B founders, especially when many believe that product speaks to itself?
Very good question. And I guess to kick it off, many of you who joined, probably kind of looking for the answers. What works in the world? Why does it work? Why actually me even talking about this? And I think I'm pretty known so far for having a very big network on LinkedIn. Maybe not big for many who used to 500,000 of users on Instagram, but as it comes to LinkedIn, usually when you pass 10 grand, that's pretty good network, especially if that network works. So as my network hitting close to 13,000 followers on LinkedIn, that's kind of why we're picking the topic on that. And I'm personally a founder with quite a bit of experience on that. So does the personal branding matter? It does. And so, you know what? I did not believe that. And majority of my time, I used to in the past invest in Instagram and kind of social medias that were not necessarily relevant to my business. But one of the things that happened when I started the software company and dive in more into B2B segment, it happened to be at the time when the world is so saturated with all kinds of automation. So AI automated emails, AI automated messages, not even AI, just like a lot of similar messages. So I don't know how about you. I get like daily messages about exact same topics or people asking for a job or people pitching me something. There is really two particular industries that pitch me like every single day at every conference. So that being said, it's getting harder and harder to sell. And interesting enough, there is really only few things that keep selling. One of them is a personal brand of a CEO. And you'll be surprised how many investors or how many people will actually tell you that it's true. And interesting enough, it's becoming now one of the biggest checkpoints when you're fundraising, or even just to measure, like even to see how many people in your network. So, from my personal experience, even though in the past businesses I've had, we used to do email marketing, mass marketing, a lot of ads on Instagram, and it worked years ago. Now we had to switch to very much personal branding. And one of the top three drivers in my business is personal brand on LinkedIn in our scenario. So it does work.
Okay. Great. And have you seen like direct outcomes like funding deals or major client contracts where
Yes,
the
absolutely.
personal brand was deciding factor for them?
Not just for me, for majority of the founders that I know who are very successful. And one of the really good examples, actually, a company called Boardly. I don't know if you follow that. It's a company of one of the founders who already had multiple exits and based in California, who literally picked up the entire company and fundraised even through LinkedIn automations through his company. So not to say that it's just from my own experience. I know multiple people who found investors, who found clients, and who found great employees, of course, through their personal brand.
So, yeah, there are always a lot of questions around platform selection and posting frequency. So, and yeah, you've just mentioned how LinkedIn is important, and we have also X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the list goes on. And given how busy B2B founders are, how should they choose platforms and figure out how often to post?
Yes, this is a very, very big question. And to be honest with you, it's interesting to see how people do mistakes without knowing kind of where to spend their energy. I think mistake number one in this case, a lot of founders do not realize how much time it actually takes to dedicate to social media. And everybody thinks, oh, I'll do a few posts on Instagram, I'll do a few posts on LinkedIn, I'll do YouTube, everything. And then you literally spend like over 40 hours per week on social media, where as a founder, your very main objective number one is to sell. If you cannot sell, no one else can sell, especially if you're early stage tech founder. It's not to run your social media. It's not to, be pretty and kind of look good. It's literally to drive your business, because if you don't, who does? But that being said, because we're trying to go into those network, we often do mistakes and we select the wrong network. So let's go step by step. B2B, technically, we sell to businesses. If we sell to businesses, businesses are not usually on Instagram unless you target super small businesses and super particular niche. So one of the things that you need to understand who exactly your client is and where do they spend their time to find for business related needs, right? And so in my particular case with Bonsai AI, it's very much LinkedIn because I work with multiple organizations of all kinds of sizes. But that being said, and that's one of the reasons why we never actually had Instagram. We only starting company Instagram this year because we are adding additional angle for influencers or and for one-on-one coaches, which is B2C clients. And so when it comes to B2C, in my particular case, they are usually based in Instagram or TikTok. So we adding those two segments. So you have to be very, very good at knowing who is your target audience, and not only where do they spend their social time, where do they spend their business time. So when we talk about North America in particular, LinkedIn is massive right now. And in fact, it's really the only tool that works when it comes into driving the business. And it's interesting enough, on LinkedIn, you can have a company page, but company page usually five times, at least five times less good at driving your business results versus personal page of a CEO. Jokes aside, not only on LinkedIn, on Instagram or other medias, it's very, very common. And I'm sure some of you already have seen that when, let's say, account of Steve Jobs or anyone else, when they had personal accounts, way, way more popular, used to be more popular when the company account, right? And it's because people love to follow people. They get attracted not only to the brand, they get attracted to the energy. So you need to remember not only company page, but also the right network that you use to post it.
Oh, it's very important to understand the ethics of using AI. From what you are saying, yeah, we know that many founders attempt to let ChatGPT or the AI tools write their posts because they have no time. And have you seen pitfalls in AI control of these personal brands?
Yes. Before we dive in ChatGPT, I do want to go back to the previous topic for a second. So we talked in general about like LinkedIn and stuff, but when it comes to selecting your network, one of the things I want to share with you. So about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, I went to a conference at Harvard, and it's essentially for people who graduated from it. And they usually give you like a key secret. So it's a day of a bit of a secret. And on that particular day, we learned about difference between TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube algorithms and kind of the future, where it's going. And what was very, very interesting, every platform, every social media, they have a different strategy, how they develop their influencers, their brand, how they pay them. And something that was very surprising for me, for example, okay, let's say this. Let's do a quick chat. Who using TikTok or like TikTok versus Instagram?
Let's
You
use
can
it.
always,
Uh,
yeah, you use
Correction.
it. Okay. Everyone. Okay. Not using it. Okay. You can put your comments in the chat. Okay, cool. So I'm personally not using TikTok. I'm using Instagram, and I don't really do YouTube Reels when it comes to like personal branding. But what was interesting to learn from Harvard conference, essentially, Instagram algorithm is to show you top stars because you already know them. So let's say if it's Kim Kardashian, they would actually even pay Kim Kardashian to do some things, and they would make it show up in your feed because essentially she's famous, and it kind of drives traction, and whatever she comes up with as a trend, everybody follows. So let's say if she comes up with a really cool reel or something, you like it or not, people will repeat because she shows up in most feeds. Where algorithm of TikTok works quite the opposite. So you could be a Kim Kardashian, but if your reel is not interesting for audience, they would not push it forward. So the way it works like a big pyramid that has at least 5 layers. And so imagine this on TikTok. Whatever you post in the moment, essentially it shows to your network, and if in a very short period of time you hit more than 10% of likes in your own target audience, what it does, it expands it. So it expands your reel and pushes to people that don't know you, and it expands to the people in your area. So essentially it could be like your city, so close area to you, approximately 50 kilometers, let's say. Obviously algorithms change, but the idea is the same. And so if within those people, you also pick up really good traction, it pushes it up and up and up. And that's kind of how they get viral. And so how does it work for a regular user on another side? So let's say I push the reel and Irina has a TikTok. And so she's always going through the stuff that she likes. So normally she'll see exact same things or similar things to her preferences. However, between 10 to 15% of her content will be new content because the thing of TikTok is essentially you don't know what you don't know. So let's check. Maybe you like something new. So TikTok makes people addicted because essentially it teaches people something. And as human beings, we love something when we learn something new, but in moderation. And so essentially, that's how TikTok influencers could be absolutely anyone who makes it very, very high up. Where YouTube is very interesting. So YouTube launched this YouTube Shorts, which also became very, very popular. Maybe not for people who not normally on YouTube, but for people who constantly on YouTube, it did also became very, very popular because people get oversaturated with long videos and long content. It's still not maybe as famous as other platforms, but it actually picking up very, very well. And because usually it has a very good quality and very good quality of influencers there too, who get paid for that. So usually you will see the influencers who are already popular there. So that's kind of something to keep in mind when you're posting your personal brand and boosting your brand. And when you look at the numbers and they don't meet your expectation, that might be one of the reasons why. Going back to your next question, Irina. So,
Yeah,
question
maybe
about
let's talk about frequency. So, what is your set of platforms, and what is like frequency? What do you think for early stage, maybe startups who has not enough staff to do this?
very, very good. So early stage, very careful. Be very, very careful. You have super limited amount of resources, kind of limited time too, because you really need to test a lot of things quickly. And I would not suggest more than two platforms. Ideally, if you can, just one. For me personally, it was kind of at one point no-brainer. We cut off completely everything other than LinkedIn. And the reason for that, because our target audience was literally LinkedIn. And no matter where we would put other stuff, even if I would put something about our company on my personal Instagram that is pretty busy usually, business wise, it would not pick up literally the most dead posts ever, just because it's a wrong network to post. And so LinkedIn, however, was opposite. And it's crazy. The more time we put in LinkedIn, the more it would drive results. What was interesting in the last year, I've learned normally I used to post 3 times per week on LinkedIn because I felt LinkedIn is not Instagram, not TikTok. The more you post, the more people kind of get tired of you, right? I was wrong. And so what was interesting, one of the coaches challenged me because he was really in touch with LinkedIn platform and how the algorithm works. And he really was firsthand in touch with people who create those algorithms. So he told me that let's say on LinkedIn, you have to post up to 14 times per week, meaning twice per day. You don't want to post more than that. And if you, let's say if you're starting, obviously a good point, start at least with one post per week. But then as soon as you understand how it works, catch up. I've actually pushed to 7 days, 6 to 7 times per week, which ended up being one post per day. I've personally skipped Saturday because Saturday for me is a day off for everyone. I'm trying not to talk about business on Saturdays. I do sometimes have 2 posts per day on different regular days. And Sunday is usually, I still post on Sunday, but Sunday it's usually more related to personal life in correspondence to business. So it's almost like business week is starting. Let's start slowly, but let's talk about personal life impact. What's interesting in terms of frequency, you often will not see the benefits because when you increase the frequency, it seems like you have lot less attention, but that's not true. So we'll dive into that in a few more questions that we prepared for you. But I think for now, to answer your question, Irina, I post on LinkedIn at least 6 times per week. And in the beginning was super difficult. Now it's actually hard to stay to 6 posts because it's just getting busier and busier. And the business picks up more, and then you always have something more to post.
So, any recommendations about time? You give recommendations about day, maybe time, or maybe any other things.
Absolutely. Very good point. Timing is super important on LinkedIn. So you're always trying to hit key business hours of the audience you're targeting. So let's say in our case, we work between EST and PST, which is technically New York and LA, right? So you want to hit people before they go to work during the lunchtime. And then depending where the most of your audience is, you concentrate on that first. So in my case, I typically post, I'm trying to post between 7 to 8 a.m. in Toronto or New York. So basically EST. Usually why I'm doing that, because we also still targeting our secondary target is Vancouver. And so I'm trying to catch those people when it's almost 5 a.m. So the closer to 5 a.m., the better. It's kind of that half an hour. So usually, let's say 7:45, it's 4:45 in Vancouver, and then it start picking up all together. If it's Sunday, obviously a little bit later, people sleep, be mindful. And if it's Friday, also a bit later, just like slightly later, because usually people get to work even later on Fridays. But very, very good indicator. Choose your main time zone. Usually try to post between 7:30 to 8:30, not later than that, and usually learn the influencers in your area. And then 5 a.m. is a good timing too. It's a good secondary timing to pay attention to. A lot of people wake up at 5, depending on the roles you target.
Oh, great. So yeah, let's jump to this ethics in using AI because it's so many tricky questions about this. So yeah, what do you think about ChatGPT and other AI tools? Should we rely on them? What are thoughts? How to keep our voice and automate something at the same time?
Okay, this one of my favorites. Let's go through the chat again quickly. Who's using ChatGPT to do any work-related work? I see hands up. Okay, I see plus plus. Awesome. Awesome. Good for you. Honestly, very good that you're using AI. So kudos that you went into it, that you started using it. Then now let's talk really a couple of times, not regularly. Good. So AI is super tricky. And essentially, the more you use it, the more you'll understand the patterns. The first time you use it, it seems, wow, this is incredible. But what's tricky about AI, it's still not as smart as we are. And essentially, what I mean by that, if you create something in big volumes, essentially AI gets not as smart, it gets weaker. But then we as humans, we tend to trust the trend. And so we checked first post, seems okay. We checked second post, still excited. Third post, and then we like start checking less and less, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. But the AI also giving you less and less and less quality, and it gets more repetitive, and you can read that it's AI posts more and more. So one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen is essentially people overusing and relying on ChatGPT to post. And what's also interesting, if you do that, if you basically start right away with ChatGPT, what it does, it takes away your personal touch. So, one of the most important things in anything you do, you have to find your voice. You have to really make sure you stick to it and you provide your personal examples. People care about your real stories. They don't care about the regular information that they can find everywhere else and they can get from ChatGPT. So, first, you always have to start what exactly you're trying to deliver in that particular post. And then you can go to ChatGPT or other LLM to do that. So other versions of ChatGPT from other providers, and then really just kind of improve your messaging and make sure to recheck absolutely every single one of them.
So you recommend to use personal stories and very and use cases, yeah. So um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
how many minutes do you spend chatting with ChatGPT, for example, to prepare one?
Okay, so I'll be very honest. When ChatGPT came out, I obviously been exploring a lot. We explore a lot because we integrated with ChatGPT for a product. So it's part of something that we use in our product. That being said, I've had periods of time where I've used ChatGPT, then I absolutely did not use it. And to be honest with you, I actually don't use it a lot right now because I kind of learn my flows. I have my voice, and I'm actually trying to avoid that for exactly the reasons I've mentioned to you. Sometimes the only reason why I would check it, because I'm actually not a native English speaker. I was born in Ukraine and I've only been in Canada for the past 12 years and I'm traveling around the world. That being said, English is not my first language. So I do work with businesses and a lot of people don't know that. So I'm trying to make sure that I check grammar. And that's something that I definitely would suggest because let's specifically for LinkedIn trend, actually LinkedIn might not push your post up if there are too many mistakes. That's something that I've also learned. So they check exactly the wording you use, the grammar you use. And so if you want to be mindful of that, you can check. That being said, if you're really looking for your voice, I would definitely suggest you to play around with it at first and kind of something that I used to do. I was like, okay, make it more direct or make it more catchy or make it more straightforward. So you have to really dictate how do you want to sound and who you are, and you need to know yourself. Like one of the best things, learn who you are, then work with ChatGPT to help you find your writing style. And then obviously concentrate, first of all, on the key information you're trying to deliver, and then just make sure it translates through that. So that's kind of probably the suggestion I would give.
Great. So let's dive into building our online presence. Recently, I joined Google for Startups Masterclass, where they shared that it is super important to understand what are the first three associations a person has when they look at your profile. What do you think? What associations do you want to come from your profile and your company's profile?
I love this, Irina. Honestly, I think this is amazing because this very important for multiple reasons. First of all, obviously Google is the organization you want to trust, and they already learned a lot. So I trust them on that case. And when I think of it, a few things come to my mind. I used to work at Nespresso ages ago, and one of the things I did when I was training new team members, I always used to tell them it takes 40 seconds to make your first impression. But if you mess that up, it takes you 40 minutes to fix that with the client you meet face to face. So you choose, are you actually building right away the good conversation or are you fixing the entire time which you've missed? Exact same thing comes up here. Three first words is actually incredible because it's very, very true. People attention span is extremely short. People literally spend 5 seconds usually reviewing your profile. More than that, I'll tell
They
you more
say
than that.
two. Now 2 seconds.
Two, now it's two. Okay. Gen Z changed the timing even more. Amazing. That being said, usually recruiters within 5 minutes know if they would hire you or not, or hiring manager. So that's probably also shorter now. So three words, crazy important. And I'll give you two examples, my personal examples, personal brand and company brand. Personal brand, it took me forever, and I've done a lot of pivots to go through to figure it out. And you kind of always get stuck between too many options, right? So I'm like, I'm best-selling author. I finished Harvard. I have a startup in AI. I'm like 15 times half marathoner. But like, what exactly talks about your brand? So I've had in the past people saying a long time ago, they're like, what exactly do you do, Olia? And it took me time to kind of narrow it back. But I'm like also Ukrainian, but I'm a female founder in tech. So I'm a minority here. I'm like, what do you use? So I think for me personally, what I came to at one point, it was first of all, Bonsai AI, number one. So that's my company, that's my heart, that's what I love to do. The second one, I am a female founder, right? But I don't want to be associated with female founders, or I don't want to be associated with a particular country because I feel like my company it's not specifically dedicated to promote a particular country or female founders. So if your business is dedicated to female founders or dedicated to a particular country, for sure make sure to use something about it. So really think of who are you targeting? So for me, it was always being global, right? Being in education and HR. So that's great. Company. I want to invite you more to explore the company because I've had a very interesting use case. Bonsai AI was initially named Transformers Academy. And as much as Transformers Academy people associated with Transformers movie, that was my objective because people remembered the name. Everybody liked Transformers, female, male, anywhere in the world. They could pronounce it everywhere. So it was working. But we hit a very big roadblock because Word Academy was literally driving people completely wrong direction. People thought my company is selling courses, and that used to be my background because I wasn't selling courses, but I was creating courses for companies like Nestle. So I was working for multiple companies that and doing learning and development. However, when I realized that it's not people who know me, that's in new people who have no idea what I've been doing in the past, they also associate my company with that. We realized that we have a problem because our company was a software that uses AI to transform documentation and create video-based courses in 15 minutes. So I had nothing to do with creation. We build the software, we give it to people, we empower people to do it, and we had a completely different understanding. So we rebranded under Bonsai AI, which is specifically has AI at the end, even if people question. Bonsai has a bit of a merger between wisdom of generations and new technology, but also like Bonsai is a catchy name on its own. So essentially, name itself could be different, but we have a very distinguished element that says AI. And so it's much easier to drive it to the software point. So I love your idea. I think everyone should go in and even check, like I always say, go into 10 people, ask them literally, what are the three first words you gonna people will describe you with, right? You personally, your brand, and it's a very good indicator where you stand.
Great example. Thank you. And as you mentioned, these pivots. So, what do you think? Do we need to do some quick fix for our professional presence? Like a lot of us has outdated job titles, some personal photos. What do you think about like keeping it consistent?
Very important. Absolutely. And absolutely, first of all, because that's the message you send into the world. Interesting enough, at this point, people not always even go into your LinkedIn or go in somewhere else. You can have your, like, I have my website, I have LinkedIn, I have book page, like, bunch of information. What's interesting, what people do, they go Google you now. They Google you literally your name to see what's going to show up. And the question is, what will show up? Did you ever try to Google yourself? Go and try to Google
Yeah,
yourself. You
they
might
even chat GPT you now, not only Google.
ChatGPT, yes. And you know what? It's funny enough because a friend of mine literally said this today that he checked himself on ChatGPT to see because ChatGPT sometimes can find historical information that might be hidden somewhere else. So what's interesting, you for sure want to have it updated because you want to send consistent message across the board. And if you're selling to businesses, your LinkedIn has to be the very first thing. Even if it's not perfect, it has to be clean and clear. Okay. Clean and clear. It absolutely have to have your company background. No like flowers, mountains. It's not social medias that we used to. And sometimes when I go into those pages, the first impression was like, oh, this is not serious. Like I literally take second. If I don't see a background picture, I'm not even responding to some of the messages of the people, even though potentially could have been a good partnership. Second thing is make sure you have a link to your website. If you have a website, make sure you have a link to your website in your profile. It's very easy to add. Please search for it. Please add it because it's literally your lead generator. And you can put like, I think it's up to 30 letters, 30 symbols, how you can name it. So I would highly recommend you to put a challenging question for people. Essentially, that's your pitch. So pitch to make people move towards the direction you want. Be very clear of what you're delivering with your business. Try to make sure if you're really driving the business and you want people to go to your business page, really highlight on that. You don't have to update your previous titles, like to make it very detailed and everything like that. Just make sure they're there. And then pictures, 100% professional and with the smile, ideally. Not ideally, kind of, I would say a must, because realistically speaking, you want to talk to people who look like they're open to talk. If I see people without no smile or like literally like this, I'm not really getting the vibe that that person is open to a conversation. So ideally work on your picture, make sure it's professional and it represents the brand you're showing.
So we have the last like question from me, and then we could jump to your questions. So there are so many of them. So let's move to measuring impact and ROI. So founders want to know if personal branding actually converts. For example, from your post on LinkedIn, 119 unique users click through our publication in your tech today. Is it normal? Is it good? So which metrics do you track and how do you personally measure your success?
This is a very tricky one and a good one too. So there are a few factors that we really need to be cautious about because it's easy to look at the number and kind of go, oh, it works or it doesn't work. But then the question is why? What's the reasons behind? So 119 compared to the network I've had at that time, that's literally 1%, which is it's a click through. So click through rate of 1%, it's very good. So meaning it caught a lot of attention of people. That being said, the post was for founders and majority of my network is not even founders, which I'm personally even surprised we got that amount of clicks because majority of uh, my LinkedIn network would be people who do C-level roles, not only founders, a lot of them not founders, people who are looking for the jobs, people who are investors. So meaning we got really good conversion and people went to read when the publication is new. It's not like they read about my publication for Google, let's say, which also sometimes would pick it up. So the conversion was really, really good. So you have to look in different factors. That being said, LinkedIn could be extremely misleading. So one of the things that when I just started developing my LinkedIn, sometimes I felt like nothing is working. And I would be sitting there with like this 2 likes or 3 likes, sometimes 8, but I'm like, what is this? Like having thousands of people. What was very interesting for me to learn on LinkedIn, a lot of people do not like. That does not mean they do not see or they do not read. What was the most interesting is when I had low likes on the post, but I got direct messages of people requesting demos. Or I had like sometimes I have some posts that are also quite low, but because it came up in the network of people again and it reminded them of the previous post I posted, we get free trial requests on the website. So it's extremely interesting to see. I usually get automated emails because I love to see that stuff coming. And it's interesting because as soon as I have LinkedIn post, normally within the next 2 hours, I have few free trial requests. And jokes aside, like literally works day in, day out, every week, and it's not slowing down. And some people in my network comes back because people sometimes need to see it so many times to really make that decision. For us, it seems like we post in it every single day. So like we're annoying people. But for other people, their world is around themselves. So they notice your post like way less than before. Statistically, people need to see exact same wording at least 3 times in order to even notice it in New York 20 times because of the volume of people city. So if you ever feel that you're posting too much about the same topic, don't, because most likely majority of people did not notice. Keep doing it and it keeps popping, and that's totally normal. Try to keep changing your wording, see the response, but don't really pay attention just to likes. Another interesting part that I've learned, whenever you start posting more, your new post might not seem that picking up. But what happens whenever you post a new post? The older ones start picking up. And sometimes I will get a response of the post up to like previous 2 weeks, sometimes even a month, if like, and they all start picking up. So they like older posts start showing up in the network of my people. And then the new post picks up later. So don't look at it as like one post today. I'm not doing good. I'm stopping this. I'm deleting this. Don't. Just give it time and let it be. Even if some posts sit at 0, that's okay.
Great. So, really, if me personally, when I see something interesting, I go and read like previous posts. Yeah. So, let's jump to the questions. So, if I'm starting to build a personal brand from scratch, what are the 3 most important first steps for quick results?
Good one. Okay, first, figure it out what exactly you're selling and to who you're selling. Like, know yourself, know your target audience, and know your product. You cannot send a good message if you do not know what you're selling to who and your own style. And believe me, one of the most important things, you have to be you. So sticking to who you are and translating that into the business world is one of the best things I've ever done. And people always say, oh, you have to adapt, you have to change. You know what? I've done all of that. And in the end of the day, I came back to who I am. And I have never been happier personally. And I figured it out how to do it in the business world. Doesn't mean I'm doing the same type of post on Instagram and on LinkedIn, but it's going to be exact same post tailored to a particular network in my voice in both platforms. So that's going to be suggestion number one. Second, test things consistently. Consistency is one of the best things ever, and that's kind of what my first book is, and I've tested it personally. I've never seen bigger power than consistency. And when you think that you go into the gym often but not consistent, try to go consistent but less workouts. You'll be surprised. So consistency will drive you further than high ups and completely no performance at sometimes. Another thing is try not to post too much at first, basically, but make sure you post good, very, very good, valuable posts or messages or videos or images. Make sure you bring something new to this world. And you know what? It's interesting because one of my biggest blockers, I would not post anything personal on LinkedIn in the past because I was like, this is my personal life and this is a business network. But interesting enough, people learn from your personal examples. They don't learn from generic, oh, do one, two, three, four, five. They learn from your specific use case and they want to know that. And if you're vulnerable enough to be able to share it and share your own learnings from it, you'll be surprised how many people will relate to that and will actually follow you for that.
Great. So yeah, we should be brave enough to share. Yeah. Yeah, so great tips. So I don't see any hands, so maybe anyone want to ask a question in real? So
Ask
no.
a question. I've seen there was some comment about building personal brand. I'm just scrolling through. Starting to build personal brand from scratch. What are the three most important first
Okay,
steps for quick results?
I've just
Okay.
so
Yeah, we did.
okay. If so, anyone want to ask a question? Yeah, Artem, please.
Yeah, can you please share any fails, like if you already have some fails or pitfalls like that you overcome during this, like strategy that didn't work or something like that?
Yeah, very good question. I think one of the biggest learnings was for me, I always was very scared to pitch my company in my posts. And I felt like, it's kind of direct, I'm selling, and I've never been that kind of person. And that was one of my biggest mistakes because I would post very valuable posts, but then I would not tag it was what we're doing. So one of the things that keep coming back on me, what exactly are you doing, right? Kind of people knew me as a person, but they did not know me as a person of the company I'm leading. And so reconnecting for me was the company. I did a challenge for myself for 30 days. I was posting every post that was still in my style, but finishing up was me relating to the company and kind of saying connect. And I forced myself to do it in a way because I also knew that my main purpose is to drive my business. And I was very shocked because instead of actually losing people, I gained people. And even if I lost some people, that's the biggest learning. Some people are not for you. So they're not like quantity of followers doesn't drive quality of your business results. And that was one of the best learnings. Like have less followers, but have the right followers. And I'm very particular now with who I connect with and when I'm posting that it relates to them. So don't be scared to pitch. Obviously, be kind of polite, be respectful, make sure it's clear messaging, and make sure your brand represents your company.
We have another question in the chat, like how long it takes till you will have these first results?
Very, very tricky
Direct
because it
messages.
really yeah, it depends on, first of all, your business idea. It depends who you're starting to target, how big is your network. That being said, on average, from what I'm seeing on LinkedIn, everybody suggests to do at least a year of consistent work, and then you can measure. And you have to do through, like, you're gonna have hard days. I had days when I was like just about to delete posts. I've deleted some, and it's funny because some of them that I was about to delete, that's those that drove messages in my inbox, and that's happened to me multiple times. So that's how I stopped deleting. But there have been posts that drive me nuts. Like now when I see posts that have less than 20 likes, because usually I have like 50 plus, 100 happens quite often, like every few weeks. When I have 20, I always tend to delete, and I'm like, what did I do wrong there? But you know what? It always, always would be good. And do a year consistently without thinking the numbers. Obviously, you should see the increase, and LinkedIn has that analytics. You can check that. Also, very, very cool thing. You can check LinkedIn. What is it? LinkedIn index. Oh my God, Irina, I forgot we chatted about that a little bit.
Yeah, it seems
LinkedIn, and we're gonna share that with you as a link. But essentially on LinkedIn, you can choose your social score, and it shows you how good you're at networking, how good you're at posting, connecting, and usually that's also a great measurement. Social selling index. Thank you. Exactly. So check out social selling index. It's free for premium LinkedIn users. I don't know if you can get it without that, but that was a very good
so.
indicator. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so I would say in the first year, stick more to seeing the responses to your posts versus to the numbers, but still, you should be still slowly growing. So check months over months, and then also make sure you're consistent because if you drop, that numbers also will drop. Another thing that I'll say, one of the learning for me goes back to Artem's question was for me, for whatever reason, commenting doesn't really work. I like so rarely will get comments from people, but I still get like people go to my website, people still sign up, which I would much rather have people signing up for business than comments. But for a lot of influencers, depending who they target, comments is one of the big drivers, right? So in my case, because I'm targeting C-level, they usually don't comment. They direct message you, they go to you, they send you emails. So you really need to understand who you work with.
Okay, so we have so many questions, but maybe we have time maximum for two of them. So first of all, so how long it took to you to get this 13K followers? And so was it done through posting or just becomes due to Bonsai?
Yeah, very, very good. So it was probably a year and a half now, maybe two, maybe we're getting closer to 2 years. And it was consistent work every single week. One of the things I used to have a flower business long time ago in Calgary, Canada. And one of the things that drove that business, every single hour, I used to add 40 people. So every single hour, 40 new people would learn about the business. Same thing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has limit up to 200 people per week. And every single week, I would go through and add new people. So it's not just people coming to me through posting, it's you actually interact and you reach out to people and you message politely to connect just like you come up with different strategies. I've tested my messaging. Some weeks were not as successful as others, but it's interesting because every time you add new people, LinkedIn kind of see, oh, you grow in your network. So they don't know who added who, but they see that you're growing. And also your posts showing up to the new people in your network. So it's really good bounce. When I would miss a week, I right away see it. It's right away, like everything falls down. But then also some of the other things that drove, sometimes like jobs repost would drive really, really big network impact because people looking for a job. But that being said, that was not my audience. So if you target, like if your business sells to people who are looking for a job, that's amazing. Sometimes like I do a lot of speaking events, podcasts, conferences, that usually drives a lot of traffic. So our biggest traffic is conferences, LinkedIn, like speaking events. So that usually brings a lot. But then I still work through connecting with people every single week.
So let me do this. I will read you the questions and you will pick one or two maybe.
Sure.
So are you commenting other posts? Is it worth using paid advertising in LinkedIn to build a personal brand, or you believe organic growth is the better approach? Own posts versus repost of someone posts. What do you prefer?
Good. So I also saw another message in the chat, 200 per month, 200 per week. So 200 per week at 100 per month. Um, Reposts. Yes, reposts, not often. I repost really messages that really works with my brand or I really connect with sometimes, but usually I don't. I'm very particular in reposts. I would repost max once per 2 weeks, unless it's really directly related to my brand. It also, LinkedIn has, when you're gonna check social index, LinkedIn show not only how your posts work, but also how do you interact with other people. So you have to repost, you have to comment on other people's posts, you have to be active in different ways. So essentially socializing properly. So a bit of both. Paid advertisement is really good. So if you're really rich, you can go that direction. But the reality of LinkedIn is the most expensive platform for advertisement. That being said, they recently changed it. So I think you cannot even put an ad if you want to spend less than $1,000. So imagine you didn't even do anything, but you need to put $1,000 in to even test it out. LinkedIn advertisement kind of works, it brings attention, but it's super expensive. So majority of companies don't use it. Only Fortune 500 companies use it, and purely because they have to, because that's part of the brand. So advertisement on LinkedIn beyond expensive. You have to drive it personally. And if you do advertisement for the company, it doesn't really work. So company pages barely works. You have to have a company page on LinkedIn. You have to develop it, but don't expect a lot of traction from it. People follow my company page because they follow me. And usually from the post, I see like the people after those posts come in and follow my company, not
It
vice
seems you
versa.
save us, all of us, a lot of money now for this LinkedIn.
Yes, yes.
Just one more question from me. So, and what about collaborations? We know that in YouTube they work well. So, do you have something in LinkedIn like this?
Uh, LinkedIn doesn't have collabs, but what's cool with LinkedIn, you can tag other people so they get mentions. And if you tag other people or companies, you show up in the network of those people who either like that. So one of the really cool drivers for me when I've learned this was Harvard Business School. So I've done Harvard Business School for like about 2 years, and we would randomly post our graduation certificates. But so first of all, network help each other, because if I've studied with someone in the group and we're connected on LinkedIn, they see that I've posted it. We graduated from the same program, so they support me. But then I keep showing up to other Harvard graduates, and even the Harvard Business School itself, they would like or repost. If they commented on your post, you show up to many more people. So my Harvard post usually would hit like 230, 300 likes at a very early stage when I could not even hit 50, right? So that was a really good indicator. So now I'm very strategic. I usually always try to tag companies, but I do tag them except post when I talk about specifically bonsai. So another thing that I've learned from this coach on LinkedIn that I've been working with, essentially whenever you tag too many people, you give links to those platforms. So you drive people to other pages. There are posts where you okay with that because you're just creating awareness when it's at conferences and stuff. But the post when you're really trying to drive traffic home to your website, try not to tag them. You can still say it because it's still like LinkedIn still will read the algorithm and still would show it up. But then you tag only your own company. So be strategic on that.
Great. So, if you could give one final piece of advice to a skeptical founder, what would it be?
Skeptical founder. Oh, I've been such a skeptical founder. Okay. Um, Test and try out things and just forget about what people think. Obviously, listen to it, but don't make people stop you doing something. One of the biggest blockers for me was always this constant thing: what would people say about me? What would people say? And one of the hard things was specifically because I used to work for big companies and small companies, and I was always just like a manager, line manager, right? So when I switched to B2B founder, even though I had businesses in the past, I never had a software company. I've had like rentals, flower businesses. So I never felt like, who am I to be a software founder? Who am I to be a female software founder? Who am I? Like, I'm an immigrant. I don't even, English is not my first language. So all of those things were coming to my head. And when I started posting in the beginning, I was like thinking that people judge me for all of those things and not kind of accepting me as a founder. And it was purely my problem. And I've had a lot of people who maybe did not get it, but there were just like people who I worked with, right? They're regular employees and they're not my target audience. So over time, I've built a whole different network. I let go my previous relationships, even though I have like lots of people who support me, majority of them. But it just, you need to understand there are people who your friends, who are your colleagues, there are people who your new target audience, and it's totally fine that you're changing how you show up. And it's totally fine that through that process you learn and you kind of fix things. So please, please, please try, be consistent, and don't be scared what people think, as long as you deeply inside of you believe that that's a right way and you're committed to do it and you feel that you bringing something very special to the world.
Thank you, Olga. It was amazing. And I think it was so many insights and so many ideas. We will publish this in your deck today. So please sign in and we will have new webinars soon. Thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Thanks everyone for joining. And if you have any more questions, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to answer and connect with you. And good luck with your personal branding. I'm going to cheer for you from the bench.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you.